Hello and thank you for stopping by. This is Marble Madness for the NES, released by Milton Bradley in 1988, and I'm playing this game from a cartridge on a retro USB AVS. This is actually a port of an arcade game by the same name, and its basic premise is fairly simple. Your job is to drive a marble through an obstacle course. The course starts out pretty simple, but gets much more complex as you move forward. The arcade version of Marble Madness utilized a trackball controller to navigate the mazes, but here we're stuck with an NES controller. Now, when you start the game, you have two options you could potentially utilize, and this affects how the controller is used. You can play a 90-degree game or a 45-degree game. This is in reference to the controller and the way you hold it. The 90-degree setting is if you want to hold the controller the normal way, and use the gamepad as you would normally. The 45-degree setting, you actually would need to hold your controller at an angle, and instead of pressing north to go up, you'd actually be pressing between north and west on the controller. This actually might be easier for some people to race the maps, because it lines up a little closer to how the levels are actually viewed. You have this sort of 45-degree top-down view. It might help. At first, the goal is to just navigate turns, ramps, and a couple of depressions. Eventually, different types of objects show up. Things that move around, various things you have to compensate for. Now, you're driving a marble, and it does not handle like a vehicle with four wheels. I think this is something that's going to be fairly evident if you've played it for a few minutes. You do not speed up and slow down in any sort of a standard way. You just have to get used to how the marble moves. If you get bumped by an obstacle or you drop from any sort of a height, you might get dizzy, which makes it hard to steer your marble for a few seconds. If you drop from too high a level, you might actually shatter the marble, and a little dustpan and broom will appear to clean you up. It's pretty clever. The first few levels are reasonably tame here. They don't just throw you into a game where you're going to get wiped out right away. By the time you get to the third level, you'll probably start feeling like you're pretty good at this, and then you're going to start to run into some pretty serious problems. Well, I did in any case. Time is a factor in this game, and you tend to have plenty of time for the first few levels. One of the things I noticed right away was when I hit the fourth level, suddenly time became a very big problem. At first I didn't have to pay attention to it at all, at least for the first couple levels, but when you suddenly find yourself falling off the track consistently, time becomes a big deal. After the first level, any time that you manage to save on a level will transfer upwards to the next level, which, as you would expect, should make things easier to get through. So the better you are in the early stages of the game, the more help it actually gives you later on. So you don't have lives in this game, which is fine, but you do have to worry about time. If you fall off the track, or you shatter yourself, or you roll off a ramp, all these things that you're running into, they help you lose time, and it'll make it so you don't have enough to complete a level. You can also shatter yourself from a pretty low height, so rolling off even near the end of a ramp, that can still be a problem. You're going to crash a few different times, and then you're probably going to start to adjust. The obstacles here in the game are actually pretty interesting too, and it doesn't take forever to actually start to run into obstacles. The first one or two levels are actually more focused on just showing you different ramps and slopes, but it's not too far into the game where you're going to start to see blobs, other marbles, tunnels, pistons, and of course some really narrow pathways to maneuver. You can press the A button to get a slight boost to marble speed, but speed on a maze like this can be a problem if you're not careful or you don't understand how it runs, so you probably should use it sparingly. They do a good job depicting a 3D environment here, I think, and for an NES game, I think this one is fairly reasonable. If you're rolling around the map and near the edge of the screen too, you can actually use the edge of the map as a border to keep yourself in bounds. That's a little strange, I think, and I don't think the arcade version did this. I think the arcade version was just a void in all directions for you to fall off of. But it's been a while since I've actually played this game anywhere else, so I'll have to go do some searching to see if I can't find some other versions. If you're skilled at this one, you can probably get through it fairly quick. I've seen some long plays online, but those long plays, those could easily be computer assists throughout the game. I know there are only a total of 6 levels here, and a straight playthrough apparently can be done in 5 or 6 minutes, though, like I said, those are probably computer assisted. I'm just guessing. Making it through this one manually would be a pretty good feat. It's a decent game and it's a really good representation on the NES, I think. This was ported to a bunch of different systems, newer systems, and has been part of a bunch of different video game collections. You can find this one in the Midway Arcade Treasures Collection Volume 1, and that was released for PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the GameCube, and Windows. I actually have the PlayStation 2 disc kicking around somewhere, and I've got that one on my short list to give it a review. That particular collection has a stack of really great arcade games on it, and apparently they used the original arcade cabinet ROMs for the release. So I'm going to have to pull that one out and give Marble Madness a try. Although this game does seem short overall, I mean only 5 or 6 levels is pretty short, even still, it was a pretty decent port to the system. Well, that's all I have to say about Marble Madness for the NES today. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next video.